the Saturday Morning Nerd Show. I'm your host, Marcus Blake, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brendan Smith.
Good morning, everybody.
And we got Mr. Chad Womack with us this morning.
Good morning, ladies and gents.
And as you can tell, there is only one thing that we are talking about for this show. It is our review of Season 2 of The Mandalorian. And also, we're going to be talking about what we're looking forward to with Disney and everything that they have announced this year. But yes, it is all about The Mandalorian. And, well, we're giving you fair warning. We're going to geek out a little bit. And there will be spoilers. We have to talk about things. So, yeah, just be prepared. If you started this and you haven't seen The Mandalorian season finale yet, we will question your nerd card. And
I was going to say, what's your problem?
Yeah. And B, we're not going to apologize for spoiling anything. So that's on you.
In the immortal words of Gunnery Sergeant R. Lee Ermey, U.S. Marine Corps, retired, what is your major malfunction, son?
As far as I'm concerned, the only person who has an excuse is my nephew, because he doesn't get to binge watch it with Dad yet. Also, he keeps getting in trouble and getting grounded. So, I mean, he's the only one that has an excuse. But other than that, you should have already watched it by now.
Hey, kudos to your cousins for actually grounding their child. Disciplining, parenting their children, that could be this week's sign of the apocalypse. Somebody still parents their children.
Well, actually, when he got his PlayStation 4 a few years ago and finally upgraded, I'd already been teaching video games to my nephew from, him babysitting. And they looked at it as he can play video games, but it's also a good teaching tool. You have to get your chores and your homework done before you go in game, like a responsible adult. And if you throw fits, then you don't get to turn on the console for like a week or two. And it works. So anyway, all right. Before we get started, we must talk about something that's very sad, something that happened in the Star Wars universe this past week. Jeremy Bullock, the original actor who played Boba Fett in Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, passed away. So we want to say our condolences. I'm and thoughts and prayers. I've got my Boba Fett coffee mug here.
Dug mine out too.
Yeah. What a terrible, terrible week to have passed away. I mean, that's just
we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, you couldn't suck any more. You keep
and there was a lot of rumors that they were going to kill off Boba Fett in the show, which hey, spoilers, not true. But could you imagine if the actor that played Boba Fett and the character died on the same day?
That'd be pretty freaky.
That'd be just.
I think there'd be a Disney meeting like, how we were going to kill off Boba Fett? I don't think we should do that.
No.
Angry at us for those movies. So anyway, again, very sad. If you never had a chance to meet Jeremy Bullock at a convention or talk with him, sorry, but he was always fun to talk to, full of laughter, always had good stories. And a lot of people don't remember too that you actually did get to see his face, in movies. He would also double as Imperial officers, in
episode 3, yeah.
Yeah. Episode 3, but also Empire Strikes Back. If you didn't really realize, the Imperial officer that's pulling Princess Leia away.
That's right.
That is Jeremy Bullock.
That is Jeremy Bullock, yeah.
So anyway,
two characters in the same scene, not bad.
Yeah, exactly. So one of those lucky English actors that came upon getting to work on Star Wars at Pinewood Studios. But yeah, it's very sad. Our condolences go out to his family. So, all right, this week's sign of the apocalypse is Star Wars related, and this goes out to Disney and Disney Plus. You weren't prepared for everybody trying to watch the season finale at midnight and your app and your site crashing. Come on, you got to be prepared. Always be prepared.
You know what, though? I'm actually a little glad they weren't. And I'll tell you why. Because there's a lot of rumors about the infighting at Disney and which direction everything should go. I think that sends a pretty clear message of what's going to make them the most money.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yep.
But at the same time, I just think it's kind of funny that
It's hilarious.
The Empire. It's just like we weren't prepared that as many people would stay up this late. And for like us, we're based in Dallas, Central Standard Time, so it's 2 a.m.
My old ass could not make it. I tried.
I know. I harassed you.
Guilty.
I was
Guilty.
proud
I
of
did it.
Chad. I didn't think Chad was going to make it, and then I saw your post.
Because I was trying to stay up for 2 a.m. to watch because one of the YouTube channels I like for Star Wars news is Star Wars Theory. So do a little shout out to him at Star Wars Theory. And he's like one of the most diehard Star Wars fans I've ever met. And like even a factor greater than me. Like he was straight up I watched it later. He was straight up in tears. And
I saw him.
Yeah. And so
touched my soul.
Yeah, it was really cool to see. He's a little bit younger than we are too. So, but he came up with the prequel generation, and but he just absolutely loved it. And I really wanted to watch that live, but I just couldn't make it. I was too damn tired. I fell asleep at about I texted you guys at 1:24, by 1:26 I was out.
Well, I will be honest. I get an extra hour of sleep on Fridays. I don't start my day until an hour later because I stay up, and I started doing that. Not necessarily for The Mandalorian, but really for Star Trek Picard, that series that came out at the beginning of the year, because I wanted to see everything and, at least have a couple of tweets about it. But The Mandalorian, pretty much any new Star Wars TV show, that's going to be my thing. I'll take a quick nap at 9, get some gaming in, at 9 p.m. and then get some gaming in and watch it.
Yeah, but I crashed at 10 and my wife woke me up right before it started. So
yeah,
I was good.
You got your 4 hours. Here's the worst part. I love all the reactions, and we're gonna get more into that, but try watching it and being so excited and in tears that you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go to bed. I've got to watch this again. I know I missed something, and you're just like, it's like this infinite loop. And I did. I didn't actually go to bed till 4 because I had to turn right back around and got to watch that again.
That's another probably good reason why I didn't watch it, because that probably would have happened to me too. And I got up at I think we watched it at 8 o'clock in the morning, and Erin wasn't feeling well, so she called in from work anyway. And so I baked some flaky layer Grands rolls, and we sat down and had breakfast and watched The Mandalorian. So that was a good way to start the day.
I kind of feel like Fridays should be, well, you shouldn't start your day until later anyway, but it should almost be like your day off. I mean, it is mine, or at least the day that I get other things done. So you can watch Star Wars TV. That should be it's like replacing Saturday morning cartoons for us adults. What are we doing first thing Friday morning? Whatever Star Wars latest episode of whatever, drop.
Oh, and I'd like to point out, we are about to end. Mandalorian has basically kicked off the golden age of nerd television, because we just finished The Mandalorian. Currently, if you have the Epix channel on Amazon Prime, you can watch Pennyworth. You also have The Expanse on Amazon Prime. Just about the time those end up, Disney Plus will start up with WandaVision. When that finishes, they start up with The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And when that finishes, I'm going to call it right here. They haven't announced it yet, but I think The Bad Batch will start, because that'll put it in May, at the end of May. And what's the end of May? The anniversary of Star Wars. And of all the shows they announced, The Bad Batch looks the most complete, because it's the one we got an actual trailer for.
It's true.
And then we should note, we'll go ahead and let you know if you haven't been keeping up, the investors meeting this past week, Disney did announce quite a few things.
Nine shows and 2 movies.
Right. So we already knew that we were going to get the Cassian Andor movie with Diego, or not movie, but series with Diego Luna, his character from Rogue One. There will be an Ahsoka TV series with Rosario Dawson. We will be getting, The Bad Batch. And one other thing that didn't get announced in the investor meeting, but got announced after this episode, they had to wait. Jon Favreau has already said they have big plans for Luke Skywalker, and I believe we're going to get a TV series. So now there isn't anything more beyond that. And we should just go ahead and say it. The reason we're talking about that is, again, the spoiler, as everybody has seen, Luke Skywalker was the Jedi that came and got the child. And what they were
it
able
was
to,
epic.
it was epic.
When Cara Dune said, "Oh, great, one X-wing, we're saved," in my head, I went,
Yeah,
full
you
on,
are.
I went full on Burt Kreischer in my head, and I was like, "Oh shit, son, it's Luke motherfucking Skywalker."
I know. But I love it that Jon Favreau has said this and is, I don't want to say catering to the fans, but giving us what we want. We've talked about this over the years with how they've kind of treated Luke in the Disney trilogy, that we need more. And the only thing that we've got about part of his story after Return of the Jedi is through comics. Well, we're about to see a hell of a lot more.
And here's the thing too, like, where was I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, but anyway, it was with Luke. But I'll come back to me. Screw it. My head just went.
Anyway, I think it's a foregone conclusion at this point that, we're going to see a series. The CGI and what they did for this episode is one thing, but it looks like that they are going to get Sebastian Stan to play the younger Luke. And I got to be honest with you, I texted Brendan this. After seeing that cameo, I looked at it as like, wait, did they actually get Sebastian Stan? But
I was for the first minute or so, I was like, is that Stan?
Really is. Yeah.
But
so I think it bodes well with the right haircut and coloring and all that. I mean, you're going to get that. And on top of that, if he grows a little bit of a beard, which Luke will eventually have, then, he's going to be a great actor to be the younger version.
The only thing I have to say is to people on the internet, can you stop bitching about the CGI, please? Like, we finally got to see Luke Skywalker at full power, turning a bunch of dark troopers, phase 3 dark troopers, who, if you've played any of the old games, you know what these things are, just one of them took the Mandalorian to the brink of death, and he cuts through an entire platoon of them like they're tissue paper, and then used forced crush on the last one, which, by the way, made me jump out of my seat. And another fuck yeah moment from me. It's too bad it wasn't in the theaters. Anyway, but
the Disney reps,
freaking Disney reps just call me the fuck yeah guy. Anyway, so we get to see Luke at full power, and your first inclination is to bitch about the CGI. Really? Stop being trolls. Stop being stupid.
Internet, calm the fuck down. We know that there aren't many things to complain about. I mean, there always is. But if that's what, you know what? I don't have any hope for you people. You're not really. You're trolls on the internet that want to bitch about shit.
Like, I think my favorite video about it was Star Wars Comics, another YouTube channel. We'll shout out. He says, all right, this is a video about how the CGI wasn't that great and why you shouldn't fucking care. I was like, yes.
Amen. That's your takeaway. That's your takeaway. We got given a gift from Favreau and Filoni, and that's your takeaway.
Well, and we got to give a shout out to Mark Hamill too. His little cryptic tweet. Seen anything good on TV lately?
I retweeted him and said, "You cheeky fucker."
Why no? What could you be referring to, Mr. Hamill?
But there was, Deadline and other outlets were able to have an article talking about how well they did with his secret cameo. There were no spoilers. Nothing got leaked, for the last year.
That's impressive.
Especially during a pandemic. So, I mean, what they did to truly pull this off. And I also think this is a bit of George Lucas, too. Favreau has also said in interviews that the whole thing, when they started the Mandalorian series, they really kept under wraps Baby Yoda, knowing full well how it was going to, how the fans were going to react.
Yeah.
And Disney, listened to him and about, we can't do this until after it airs. You cannot release merchandise early. It will have to, you'll make money off merchandise. But, excuse me. Sorry. Don't you hate that part where you're really like, you're about to sneeze, but you can't quite sneeze?
Yeah, it's terrible.
But it was George Lucas who told Favreau, don't do this. Don't release anything. This is keep this under wraps and just.
This is your. I know this word has turned into a 4-letter word now because of the internet, but it's your trump card.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, I have a question to pose. This is from a friend of the show, Mr. Trinidad Torres, who we haven't seen in a while because he moved out of Dallas, but always fun to argue with him about stuff. He posed this question to me on social media. Because the Luke scene was reminiscent of the Vader scene in Rogue One, where he just cuts through everyone, he asked, which one was better for you? Which one was, the better scene? And I answered it this way. This is my personal take, and then I want your answers. I still think the Vader scene is better from an action standpoint because he's just a badass and throwing people left and right, blah, blah, blah. But I think the Luke scene was more emotional. It's more emotional because we finally get to see Luke in all of his glory after Return of the Jedi. We get what we've always wanted. And not to take away from his Force projection at the end, at The Last Jedi. It was cool. I'm not saying it wasn't, but it wasn't this scene.
Yeah, I agree 100% because, look, the Rogue One scene was better filmed. It had more money to do it. They had a huge, massive budget, like something like 300 million. This is a show that for a show has a very large budget, but it's also the last episode of the season, which means they're running out of money. So I think for what it is, it's exceptionally well done. It's never going to be as well done as something on a movie just because of the money involved. But I think for what it is as a TV show, it's probably the most cinematic thing you're going to see on a TV show. And yes, some of us, like the three of us on this podcast, have been waiting 3.5 decades to see Luke like this, to see full power Luke, to see Jedi Master Luke. We've been reading books, reading comics, playing video games, and we finally get to see it in live action. And as cool as Vader was cutting through everybody, and that was a cool friggin' scene. That was another Brendan in the theater yelling "fuck yeah" moment. But it wasn't Luke Skywalker after 3.5. Like, we always knew Vader was a badass, and we saw Vader being a badass. So while it was really cool to see it again, we never got to see Luke like this. And I think that's why it was so impactful.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, it's just it's the accumulation of all of our nerdom, like waiting for that. I mean, it's like our thing of. It's like our version of waiting for Santa.
Return of the Jedi came out in 1983. It's 2020. I mean, we're almost 4 decades on, and we finally get to see Luke. That's a lot of pent up.
Dad, what?
That's one big nut to bust. That's all I got to say.
Well, I looked at it like this, and it's very similar to what you two guys have said. Watching Vader go beast mode in a blockade runner, like Jason Voorhees mowing down camp counselors, was the most badass thing I've ever seen in my life. But again, we have been waiting to see this version of Luke Skywalker ever since he put on the black outfit.
Right.
We're like, something's going to happen with this dude that we are never going to see coming. And we got the tiniest little glimpse of it on the sail barge. And when he freaked out whenever Vader goaded him in that lightsaber duel, we're like, oh shit, where the hell did that come from? We didn't know we didn't know the kid had it in him. But to see this, I haven't cried like that out of sheer joy.
And what I loved about the scene is, like, so yeah, you get to see it with Vader goaded him, but that was like emotional and raw, right?
Yeah.
Like that's like, no, dude, you I'm not gonna let what happened to you happen to my sister. This was just, man, this was just like Tuesday after lunch break. I'm just going to mow down some badass droids and not even break a sweat. Hell, he wasn't even out of breath when he got to the bridge, man. No. He was calm. It looked like he had just meditated.
Yeah. I mean, it's Luke in all of his glory. I think
the rest of the internet looked like they needed a cigarette, but
yeah, the Force Crush was awesome. And I mean, just him doing that, you're like,
because and the best part is me and a couple other guys like that I watched the reactions. We're doing it with him when he puts his hand out and the guy starts wiggling. We just crushed a hand like that, and then he did it, and it was like, ah!
My favorite scene really was him picking up the head of a trooper and flinging it and knocking out the other one. Yeah,
and footballing it into the face of another one. Yeah.
yeah. It's just, and I really love where you kind of get that little tease where, I mean, you kind of know if an X-Wing shows up, it's got to be Luke as a Jedi. But then again, you're kind of like, well, Ahsoka might have one, or maybe this is where we get to see Ezra Bridger or
Well,
something like that.
what I knew is
However,
when it landed.
Hold on. What I'm saying is, the moment that you get that guy where he steps out and you see the green lightsaber, I mean, it gives you that one little shot where it's, you know exactly whose lightsaber is, and you see the black glove holding it. At that point, you're like, of course it's Luke. I mean,
all doubts are erased. All
dude,
doubts are erased.
I want to praise that one little shot. You didn't see him face, you didn't think. It's just that kind of the way they cropped it on the green lightsaber. You get to clearly see that it's his, holding it with the black glove. So, from a filmmaking standpoint, that was it. And Star Wars fans will immediately recognize that because we look for those kind of details.
I like how he pinned one Death Trooper with a box of whatever cargo that was, and then just casually as he walks by, he decapitates him.
Slash.
Yeah.
like as casually as like me leaving the urinal and zipping up my jeans. I mean, it was just like,
yeah.
It was just a second thought, you know. It was like, oh, you're dead.
And a shout out to the stunt guy Mark Jones, who was the body. Fantastic lightsaber play. I mean, the choreography was fantastic. You did a great job. And as far as I'm concerned, we need more Jedi stuff from you. To me, that's the equivalent of being able to see Ray Parker wield a lightsaber and flip and do stuff, like he did with Darth Maul.
Well, and there was one other callback to Anakin / Vader too. It was that shot where he blocks the blaster bolt behind his back with the lightsaber. That's what Anakin did on Mustafar to kill a battle droid. Just as he was leaving the room after he killed all of them, he just blocked it behind his back and it reflected it back at the battle droid.
So, but anyway, you couldn't have given us a better cameo, a better ending, everything. I mean, it is.
And we haven't even talked about the Din Djarin fight.
We're getting there in a moment. I know there's a lot to talk about.
I'm just saying we haven't even gotten there. I mean, it's.
But I mean, if you are looking for the ultimate finale, I mean, literally, if you never did The Mandalorian again, if you were only doing 2 seasons, this would be the perfect way to end it.
I agree.
But also to lead into where we're going. I have said this ever since The Force Awakens. I will keep reiterating it. I don't think the movies will be as bad. We'll look back at them as being as bad or are complaining if we know more of the story that happened over 30 years. Okay? I'm not justifying the movies. I'm not making any argument that they need to retcon. I'm not even going to get into those debates anymore. I'm just simply saying there's not enough that we know between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens to understand fully what this story is and what was happening with these characters. I think that's what we're going to get. And I really, truly think that's what Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are trying to do with the future of Star Wars in the series and stuff. And yes, we need a Luke Skywalker series. We need to know more. So thank you. If that's what we're getting. So great cameo. I want to do this, and then we're going to move on. We're going to talk about other things from the series, including, the little post-credit scene. Yeah. And by the way, if you didn't wait for that, this is Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, all wrapped up in one. You always sit through it, just in case.
Well, Marvel now, or I should say The Mandalorian now is to Star Wars as Iron Man was to Disney. It is the
and we have Favreau to thank for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And also he did Elf too, which is kind of crazy. So
I want to do this. I want to get this out of the way before we talk to the rest. I want to offer our final grade on there's 2 final grades. One for the entire season and one for the last episode. And we're going to tell you, and then we're going to tell you why we grade it that way and talk about all that we have experienced with season 2. I will personally tell you that I give I give a 9 to the entire season and a perfect 10 to the last episode. I debated whether I should, and I kind of felt the same way that when me and Brendan were struggling when reviewing season 2 of Daredevil, and we're like, oh, fuck it, it's a perfect 10. That's me. So, Brendan, how about you? What grade would you give?
I'm giving the entire season a 10, and just because of, if you look back on it and rewatch it, and now with the announcement of all the different shows, you can see all the threads and plots being laid. And it's people thought it was filler, and it's like, no, it's not filler. It's very important groundwork for what's to come.
Well, I get what you're saying. The only reason I'm giving it a 9 is the second episode, while it's a filler episode and good, it doesn't, to me, it's not absolutely perfect. And it's one of those where I'll watch it to get to the next episode.
Okay, that's fine. I'm still giving it a 10. As far as that last episode, was so, and I'm going to take this couple seconds just to say this. Can we, as a collective podcast community, stop using the word fan service as a derogatory term?
Yeah.
That pisses me off to no end, because you know what? You make a movie, people like that movie. You make a sequel or a series of sequels and TV shows in the vein of that movie because you want to appease the audience that liked the first one so you can make money. It doesn't have to be some hoity-toity art house bullshit, Ryan Johnson, where you just make a movie to piss people off just because you want to see everybody on either end of the spectrum. You actually can just make the movie that people want, and it's not fan service, or it is fan service, but that's not a bad thing. That is a good thing because you want to make money. All right, rant over. But my score for the episode, it's going to be ridiculous because it's too emotional and too awesome, and I've wanted it for 40 fucking years. It's a 15 out of 10. I don't care.
Okay, Chad, how about you?
I find it incredibly ironic that Peyton Reed is responsible for both the weakest episode of the season with the Crystal Spider episode that everybody thought was just pointless exposition, and this absolute masterpiece of storytelling, pacing, filmmaking. Everything came together in a way that I never.
Oh God, the music for this episode, the music.
Yes.
Gave me chills.
The slow burn of the arrival of the X-Wing and the score, the way it, and I still dig the dubstep theme of the fucking Death Troopers. People were giving that shit. I'm like, good Lord, that's badass because it works for them.
Well, yeah, and then not only that, but like their own sounds and their own movement were part of the soundtrack. It was phenomenal.
Yeah. I can't. Oh God, it's so hard to give this season anything but a perfect score, other than that slight little misstep with I just think it kind of slowed things down unnecessarily with the other episode that Peyton Reed directed. But since he kind of redeemed himself with this finale, I'll give him a fucking pass. It's flawless to me. Season built and built and built and built with every episode. You're like, there's no way it can get better than that, and it fucking did.
So what you're saying is really the this week's Out of the Apocalypse is I have a lower grade on the season than everybody else, which I never do.
Yeah, that's true. You're usually the optimistic one, and we're all the critical ones. So yeah.
Well, I know, because I'm the one that
hey,
just in The Last Jedi and doesn't hate Ryan Johnson, but I'm also a guy that's on a mission to civilize and prove to everybody that Star Trek Enterprise really was a great series and is better.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I agree with you there. So anyway, I'm on the Enterprise train with you, but that's another story for another day. Look, hey, Enterprise was the only show that actually explained why some Klingons didn't have head ridges, and it made sense and wasn't stupid. So let's, but like I said, that's another train. We could go down that rabbit hole for a long time. Anyway, Yeah, it just my critiquing skills could not withstand power of that magnitude.
Yeah,
I just,
and I get that. I understand, and we can debate The Last Jedi and Ryan Johnson and all that, till we're blue in the face, and we've done that. I just want to point out that I guess I'm at that point where I'm kind of being critical of certain things, like where I can't see it, absolutely being perfect. But I mean, it's like right there. But I'm also not stupid enough to like. I hear people talking. Well, it's not really a perfect 10. They could have done this, and it's like, just shut the fuck up and give it a perfect 10.
yeah,
Okay?
first of all, nothing is going to ever be perfect. Okay, there's always going to be things you can nitpick. Hell, we could go back to Daredevil season 2 we gave the 10 to. We could probably nitpick some things in there if we really wanted to, but could they really have done anything more to make us any more excited? And the answer is no, which means, okay, they got a 10.
You hit all of the right nerve centers, for us nerds. You gave us every emotion, that I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you hit it all. You hit every note perfectly for us nerds when it came to what we wanted, for a Star Wars series. And you gave us all the characters that we, truly want, we can identify with. So why argue about it? Why debate and be that critical?
And not to mention laying the groundwork for 3 announced shows plus 1 suspected show.
Yeah.
I mean that's amazing storytelling when you can use one vehicle to lay the groundwork for multiple other vehicles. And it's not like the Marvel Cinematic Universe where they did that over time, over multiple movies, over multiple years. They did this in one season of one TV show. That's good writing.
And here's the other thing to look at. Again, I'll go back to the fact that, we need to know more of what's happened in these 30 years between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. That's what TV series are going to be good for. It gives us a chance to explore everything without boiling it down to a 2-hour movie. And we're not going to get 20 Star Wars movies to set the groundwork for, the ultimate showdown with the ultimate villain. Disney isn't going to do that with Star Wars movies. And what Marvel did, I don't think anybody will ever be able to truly accomplish what they did. You'll see people try.
DC could if they get their head out of their ass, but
I know, and
they have the property to do it. They probably are the only other ones that have a property to do it.
But my point is, it's like what Game of Thrones proved. We're not going to do a 2-hour movie try to sum up one of their books. We're going to do a 10-episode season. Oh, and by the way, the largest book, which was 2, we're going to split into 2 seasons. And no matter what the arguments were for the end of Game of Thrones, how they set it up and what they allowed us to do to get to know all of these characters, whether they live to the end or not, that's what a TV series does. And you do it just right in an 8 to 10 episode or even 13 episodes. Right now, I'm rewatching Star Wars Rebels. I haven't really had a chance to binge watch it since it was on, and there's more things that I'm noticing that I don't remember. And I'm like, while I would love to see a live action version of this, everything that they're doing to explore right before the rebellion, the other heroes that we didn't know about, where Ahsoka was. Ahsoka, I feel like, is so important, as she is that bridge from the Clone Wars to the rebellion to a little bit what, also kind of what happened.
I think you have hit that nail on the head, and you really don't even realize how much so. Because you did the whole Mr. Miyagi 2 taps and put it through the board. Because Ahsoka's show, I think, because I don't really necessarily agree with you that they're going to explain what happened to Luke to justify the sequels. I don't think they're going to fully retcon them either, like some people do. But I think they're going to pull a page out of J.J. Abrams' playbook and create their own Kelvin timeline, or in this case, the Filoniverse. And because I know you think I'm wrong, but watch Rebels.
You're wrong. I just don't like the idea.
Well, I never had a problem with the Kelvin timeline as an idea. I had a problem with its execution. But just flip flopping flip-flopping Kirk and Spock in Wrath of Khan and casting a white dude from East London as Khan. I mean, come on. But I don't have a problem with the idea. I just have a problem with the previous execution. But I think they're going to do it because if you watch season 4, episode 8 of Rebels, I believe, The World Between Worlds, they introduced the Veil of the Force, which is a pocket dimension outside space and time. And it's how Ezra saves Ahsoka and essentially creates a new timeline right there. And
I understand. I just, as a storyteller, I want it to be linear, and I think that's a cop-out.
Well, it may be a cop out, but it may be something that Disney is doing for 2 reasons. One, because at the last investor call before this one, which happened right before COVID, the investors were furious because Disney played funny games with the books. There used to be 2 different line items. One was theme park sales, one was toy sales. Both of them were hurting so badly that they combined it into one to make it look bigger. And the reason why they were hurting is because nobody was buying sequel trilogy toys and nobody was buying Galaxy's Edge theme park tickets. So they spent all that money building 2 Galaxy's Edge and nobody went. That was a huge problem for the investors. And in the end of the day, politics aside, storytelling vision aside, money talks, bullshit walks. Always has, always will.
Yep.
Follow the money. So that's reason number 1. I think they're going to do it. Reason number 2, I think they're going to do it is because the fans are responding to this content and they're responding to George's involvement, helping Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau.
I get what you're saying, and that's perfectly fine. I'm a fan through and through. I will watch it the same way that I still go back and watch the prequels. I agree that the TV series are going to be better, and we're going to be able to do some things. But I will always argue as a storyteller, and I think after writing 13 books and doing my own thing, I have the right to be able to say this, that I disagree with that from creative. But I respect anybody that does something creative. That's why I will never attack them fully. I'm like, I get it. It's not my cup of tea.
Hey, Marcus, you don't even need to have written 13 books, even though I respect the fact that you did, to think that that's not a good way of doing it. That's your opinion. You're more than welcome to it, and nobody can say otherwise. If you don't, if you would prefer to go one way, that's the way you prefer, and screw anybody who tells you that you shouldn't like that. I'm just making the case of what I think is going to happen, regardless of whether you think it's a good idea or not.
And like I said, it may be. It's the same thing about the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. I'll still watch them, and I get what they're doing, and I still respect that they put together a pretty damn good cast to take over the roles of these. I mean, Zachary Quinto.
I think they did a great job of casting. I just wish they did a better job of script writing.
Well, and again, that gets into all the arguments that we always have about Star Trek.
And I've talked about it many times. How awesome would it have been for Benedict Cumberbatch to be Gary Mitchell?
Right. And I agree. But speaking of Benedict Cumberbatch, forget arguing about what he should have done in Star Trek. Let's talk about what he should do in Star Wars, and that's called Grand Admiral Thrawn.
I know everybody wants him to be Thrawn, but I don't think that they can get him. I think he's too busy and he's too expensive. Who I want, because I think they can get him, and because I think he was a wonderful, malevolent, understated villain, was David Tennant. And people go, he's too short. He's 6'1". Thrawn was 6'2". It's not like we're casting Tom Cruise here to be Jack Reacher. Okay?
And I agree, but I'd also be okay with Lars Mikkelsen.
I would. No, 100%. 100%. If they cast Lars Mikkelsen, I'm going to be like, all right, dude, you cast the guy who voiced him the first time. Yeah. He's tall, he's lanky. Right. You have him shave that beard, put him in blue makeup. He's going to be great. To me, it would be a dream geek casting, because I love David Tennant from Doctor Who, from playing the Purple Man, from Broadchurch. He's done so many great things. Unfortunately,
he's got a series out now where he played, I forget the name of the serial killer, but he plays a famous serial killer from England.
Yeah, I just started that. I haven't. It's
I don't even know
it's
the name of it. I just keep
it's
seeing the
it's
ads. But
I think it's
see,
called
this is
Crime
what
and Punishment England or something like that.
yeah, see, this is what the Mandalorian did. It made me want to go back and watch like the Clone Wars and Rebels. So I'm like, God damn,
Yeah.
I don't have time to do anything else till I get through this.
And by the way, Lars Mikkelsen is kind of a nice a nice little callback to Benedict Cumberbatch because of course he starred opposite Benedict Cumberbatch in I think
Right.
it's season 3 of Sherlock or season 4. I forget. But anyway, he played
I think it's
the villain with his
4,
own mind castle. You know, he
yeah.
was like the anti-Sherlock.
Right. All right. So let's start breaking down a little bit. We'll get to the rest of the season, but we're still talking about the final episode. One thing that they absolutely did right in making this a perfect 10 is you have 4 badass women that don't need any men fighting with them that fucking took that ship.
And you didn't have to tell us they were women.
No.
Like Marvel did in Endgame. Like we didn't know. Like we couldn't tell just by looking at them.
Well, I get the end game. It's like, here's our I am woman moment. Like it was cute. And I don't want to sound like a misogynist prick, but it's like, thank you. We knew and it was great, but you didn't just have to force feed us. We love these women. We've never complained about them in the Marvel universe, but thank you.
And I'd like to call out to all the Twitter trolls who said I was a misogynist pig because I didn't like the character of Rey and I hated Daisy Ridley. No, I love Daisy Ridley. I think she's a phenomenal actress. I just think she was given bantha poodoo to work with for a script.
Absolutely.
However, I love these 4 women, and I was online last night, and I was Katie Sackhoff posted on Facebook about how it was fire team goals, and it was the picture of the 4 of them. I was like, can the 4 of y'all start a Battlefront 2 fire team, and we just watch you on Twitch? Because I would watch that all day long.
By the way, can we have that mode in Battlefront 2 to where we can squad up?
That's a good point too. I didn't even think of that. Maybe they can do Call of Duty. I don't know. Point is, I would spend 2 hours on a Thursday night watching Ming-Na Wen, Katie Sackhoff, what's her actual Mercedes Varnado is her real name, not her WWE stage name. And then Katie Sackhoff. I would watch those 4 women just joking around and playing video games for 2 hours once a week.
Oh, I agree. And here's the thing. I love the fact you get to know actresses from certain roles. I mean, we've known Ming-Na Wen for almost 30 years. She was on ER. We know her she's a Disney princess because she voiced, the first Mulan. Absolutely lovely. We, got a chance to meet her years ago at the Marvelous Nerdy Week convention. And when there wasn't a lot of fans and people were just kind of milling around. And again, absolutely fantastic to talk to, but absolutely stunning too. The woman is
she's 57 years. She's 15 years my senior, and she looks like she's about 10 years younger than me.
Yeah, the girl don't age. The girl does not age.
Somebody said to me when I said that they're like, oh well, that's because of genetics. I said no, that's because she maniacally takes care of herself, and I'm a broken down sailor that eats like shit, drinks too much, and doesn't fucking work out.
Right. But
maybe genetics helps, but
yeah, I mean, but at the same time, I'm glad her character didn't die and they brought her back because all 4 of them are not only are gorgeous women to begin with, but they're badasses in anything that they have ever done. I don't care much for wrestling, but yes, I would watch Sasha Banks do wrestling. And Gina Carano, I don't give a shit about what controversy she stirred up on Twitter like anybody else. Calm the fuck down. She's allowed to have an opinion. You can agree to disagree with it. But she is a badass in The Mandalorian. And
she's a badass in real life.
Yeah, exactly. That woman is like Gal Gadot. She could probably kill you with her bare hands.
Yeah, she could probably kill 99% of the guys I know, including me. And then and then Katie Sackhoff, who's been Starbuck, and she's been a badass tough cop in Longmire, which was a great show. So I don't know. There's it's so good, so good.
The trolls out there on the internet that just complain about every little thing, just shut the fuck up. If you have nothing else to do, go play Fortnite and complain with the millennials, so I can ignore you.
Yeah, like some of these people on, I mean, I'd have to take I have to take a Robin Williams line to some of these guys on the internet who are just completely trolls. And I think half of the women online that are complaining about this aren't women, they're guys in their mom's basements. They're the actual ones in the mom's basement saying we're in our mom's basements. All I have to say to you is, to quote Robin Williams from Good Morning Vietnam, you are in more dire need of a blowjob than any white man in history.
Yes. Yes.
And I guarantee you they're probably white because they're probably Russian trolls. So there you go.
I'm like, God, you couldn't have brought 4 badass women together to overtake that ship. And and their chemistry together was hilarious. I mean,
oh yeah.
I want a series
so when they come back up over the bridge to take out the stormtroopers behind Fennec and the look that that Kara gives them, that just sly little look of nice, and that just keeps going. Yeah,
well played.
So I almost want a series of just Ming-Na Wen's character and Gina Carano's character of just going off on their own adventures. Okay, and I'm also trying to stop short of like not letting that turn into some fantasy that we can't talk about on this show, but but at the same time,
don't worry, Marcus. Like, I'm sure somebody on that certain site that we all know of will do a parody.
Yeah. I remember somebody complaining on Twitter that, obviously Gina Carano has gained a little bit more weight. She's beefy and all that. I'm like, first of all, she's a woman who should have curves, and 2, it's probably muscle and she can kill you. So I quit trying to body shame her. She was an MMA fighter. Okay. And, while she has obviously done some B movies and everything and becoming an actress, very underrated movie that never gets talked about is the one that really introduced her to film, Haywire. Great little, spy thriller. But just, again, it goes into the people that just complain about stupid shit on the internet. And for everybody that's calling for her to get fired from the Mandalorian series because of her comments, just shut the fuck up. Okay?
Also, not gonna fucking happen.
No.
No.
There's a lot.
And then they try to cancel somebody else too. Who did they try to? They tried to cancel somebody else on the show too, just recently, because it didn't work with Gina Carano, so they went to somebody else, and I can't remember who it was. But
I like how she fights back with them, and it's just like, I'm not gonna. In my opinion, you can agree to disagree with her. But I mean, short of her walking out into a protest wearing a Ku Klux Klan outfit or a swastika, and being a Nazi, who the fuck cares? It doesn't matter. She is badass in this series. She's an actress, and I freely admit I would probably geek out if I ever met her. Like the women of Firefly. So I have to remind myself, be professional. But anyway, all right. One thing we definitely got to talk about again. It was really cool, but let's talk about the return of Boba Fett. I mean, it was great that they at the very first episode they gave us at the end of it, him turning around in the desert and confirming that him surviving the Sarlacc pit is now canon. But for him to show back up and claim his armor again in that episode, wow.
Yeah.
I like how he shows them the chain code and the lineage of the armor. And by the way, have you guys seen that? Have you seen that transliterated?
Yes.
Mm-mm.
They actually transliterated. It says something about Django Foundling, Mentor Morrill, Jaster Morrill, and then Boba Fett is the last one on the chain.
Nice.
But it actually does read all of that. It's not just a gibberish. It's all Orobish that can be translated into English.
Wow. Fantastic. I mean, I didn't really expect that much of it. I just thought, okay, great. Because obviously, when we got to the very first episode, you immediately recognized whose armor that was.
Yeah, and because they even play a little bit of the Western theme to kind of give it like make it think like, okay, this is Boba Fett coming in, and then he takes his helmet, and of course it's Cobb Vanth. But and the other thing too, like this is like if you see Aurebesh on the screen, it's probably not gibberish. If you want to get the Aurebesh out there, you can probably literate it and see what it says. Like for example, the menu at the cafe that they meet Kos Greaves and Bo-Katan in, that whole menu translates into actual food, and some of it is actually food that you can order at the cantina in Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's the level of detail that goes into this. Like, and also if you take a good look at Boba Fett's jetpack, there's a patch over it from where it got broken in Return of the Jedi.
Where Han smacked it with that skiff rifle.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is to bring Boba Fett back, and the fact that the post-credit scene is setting up a series with him. I know that Tamura Morrison, has kind of been hinting, it's like, bring me back, for Boba. I should get a chance to wear the armor after voicing all these characters and, being a clone trooper and whatnot. Yes. And this is something that we were discussing about, villains. Do you really consider Boba Fett a villain?
He's just a simple man trying to make his way through the galaxy.
Right. I don't consider him a villain, but he's a great anti-hero.
Yeah.
And
he's Star Wars' Punisher.
Yeah, absolutely. So them teaming up together and him saying that our task is not done until the child is back in your hands, you're like, fuck yeah. Now, the only thing missing for the final episode is he didn't help on the ship, but at the same time, you got to get ready for badass women.
But we know why.
Yeah.
Because he would have been a little pissed off to see Luke Skywalker.
Yep. I know. It's like, that's not going to go over well.
Like a wet fart in church.
If it had wound up being Mace Windu instead of Luke Skywalker.
Oh, that would have been
really bad.
So here's the question. And this was something that you were asking me, in a text message before. Is it really a whole Boba Fett series, or is it just setting up season 3 of The Mandalorian? No, I think this is what they said. It's the book of Boba Fett. It's an entire thing just for him.
So let me explain to people who might be watching the confusion. There's a lot of confusion about this book of Boba Fett, whether it is going to be season 3 of The Mandalorian or a separate show. And the reason why is because it's slated to come out at the exact same time Disney said Mandalorian season 3 was going to come out on the investor call. However, I would tend to agree with you, Marcus, that it's going to be a separate show. And the reason why is because before the Disney investor call, they said they'd be announcing 10 new Star Wars shows on Disney Plus. They only announced 9.
Yeah.
So that includes the Mandalorian. So the 10th would be the Boba Fett show.
Right. And
so
you can't spoil it during an investor meeting compared to this awesome post-credit scene.
Yeah, no, they had to leave it like that. Yeah, absolutely. But I can't wait for it. I think it's going to be fantastic. And honestly, it would be cool too if they do some flashbacks to times between Clone Wars and Rebels, and they brought Daniel Logan in, who played young Boba Fett, to play a teenage or an early 20s Boba Fett.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. But the other thing too is, Ming-Na Wen, I was like, I love the fact that she's going to get more work in a Star Wars.
Think about it. She went straight from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to Star Wars.
Yeah.
She's the nerd queen.
You were Disney royalty to begin with. Now.
She's straight up nerd royalty now. Like if there's a female nerd Mount Rushmore, like she's right next to Carrie Fisher at this point.
Okay, Chad, be honest. How excited were you when you saw that post-credit scene about a Boba Fett series?
Oh, I was out of my mind. And what tipped me off was, okay, normally when you're watching things on Disney Plus, they go once that theme starts and it kicks into the brass fanfare, it goes into like the size of a postage stamp, and they recommend the next show, and it never shrank. And
they didn't do the concept art like they always do for the credits.
That too, but yeah. That allowed you to watch the names in those end credits a little bit closer. And I did notice that the very last name on the credit said Matthew Wood, Bib Fortuna. And
we hadn't seen him yet.
I looked at my wife. I said, he hadn't shown up yet. We're going to get a post-credit sequence bigger than shit.
Which, by the way, hashtag Blob Fortuna.
No shit.
Dude got hefty.
Yeah, he did. He picked up whatever it was Jabba had stored in the freaking kitchen.
Yeah, and ate
I
all
found
of
it
it.
fascinating.
Like I didn't even know Leku could get fat. Like his Leku got fat.
I found it fascinating. I'd completely forgotten that Matthew Wood played Bib Fortuna in the Phantom Menace.
Yep.
Yeah, it was him as Bib Fortuna. So I'm like, why would they pick him? I'm like, oh yeah, and I'm assuming the guy that was, which I'd totally forgotten. He was the guy that got chased through the subway. That was the first victim in American Werewolf in London. That's the same actor that played Bib Fortuna originally. I'm assuming that he's no longer with us.
But
But seeing that and just seeing how it played out, I love the fact that we got the McClunky freaking line thrown at us by Bib Fortuna.
And then the music again when Boba sits on the throne.
Yes,
that music was epic.
It was pure paradise for somebody waiting for that to happen. I love the fact that Bib was carrying the staff that he carried as an action figure that we never saw in the movie. Just the nerd details that Filoni and Favreau are willing to go through that most people would just totally just discount, not even look at. And also I'm like, oh shit, I remember that thing.
Right.
Oh, by the way, and the woman in the background that ran up the back staircase to escape Fennec's onslaught, that was one of the dancers from the special edition Return of the Jedi.
Really?
It was the same character, yeah. The blue woman with the spiky red hair.
Yeah.
I forget the character's name, but that was the same one. So like even that little detail.
But the one that Boba stroked the chin of? The one that he was holding her face while
Son of
a bitch. So, I had no idea.
And here's this, like, who else was I the only one shouting, Fennec, you're standing on a trap door?
You were like, Master Luke.
But then he just cold shoots Bib right in the chest and just unceremoniously dumps him out of the chair like, you're a piece of garbage. Get off my seat.
Right, exactly.
And Tony Montana's the fuck out of that chair.
Well, here's what's interesting. We through the 90s and early 2000s, we kind of grew up with this great expanded universe in books.
Mm-hmm.
All the people that came together to write these great stories. Not all of them were good, and we've talked about that, but
yeah, most of them pretty good.
Right.
Say about 75-80% of it was really good stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Tales of the Bounty Hunters, Tales of Mos Eisley Cantina, Tales of Jabba's Palace. Those Tales books were great.
Written by Timothy Zahn.
Solo adventures. There's so much more that you can dive into, and I think that's what Disney Plus is really all about. I mean, we shouldn't give them this idea, but they could literally break off and just have an entire Star Wars app and charge us $10 a month, and we'd easily do it.
Yeah, Marcus, shut up. You're right. We would, but shut up.
Oh, like you would be paying for it.
I said yes. I said you're right.
The company will happily pay the $10 a month for everybody to have a profile.
Yeah, but don't give them that idea. You're right, but don't give them that idea.
I am happy to, if that's what they wanted to do, if they were going to give me everything I wanted in Star Wars, whatever. But all I'm saying is, what you're doing and what you are bringing us, I don't care what Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau, whatever idea they have, just give them fucking money to do it and leave them alone.
Yeah.
Don't interfere. Kathleen Kennedy, shut the fuck up. Go away.
I only have one request for the 10 new shows. One request. Everything else, I trust in their vision, but this is my one request. The opening scene of Lando is Billy D. Williams sitting down across from a New Republic news reporter who's going to write his memoirs. And Billy takes a sip of a drink and looks him in the eye and says, have I ever told you about that little maneuver I pulled at the Battle of Tanab? And then they fade, yes! and they show Donald Glover behind in the cockpit of some ship, and Billy D. Williams is narrating the story while Donald Glover is the star.
I love that. I love
it. Like Interview with a Vampire style.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the other thing. Give us give us some more Solo movies, because Heinrich, who he would.
Oh, I think he's going to show up in Lando. I think that's I already
Yes.
think that's happening.
You can have him as a younger version. He did fairly well. I thought both of them, worked well together. Him and Donald Glover. Yes, it sucks that it'll never be Harrison Ford again and Billy Dee and whatever. Okay, make way for a new generation. Tell these stories. We want more adventures with both of them. Okay.
And I think the Lando is, because I don't think we're going to get another Solo movie, but it wouldn't surprise me if we got a Solo and Chewbacca or show, Han and Chewie. And I think Lando could be the launching point for that.
Yeah,
because that'll give it enough degrees of separation, so that they can justify
I'm
it.
good with whatever it is, but tell me more of their adventures that leads up to the rebellion. There's too much that we.
I want to see what happened on Ord Mantell.
Yeah. The other thing is, if you're not going to make all the books in the expanded universe canon, then you have to do something to fill that void to tell us what your canon is.
Yeah.
Star Wars series. So, remember, we were all excited, kind of about the CW. It's basically become the TV,
the Arrowverse.
For DC TV series and characters. And I still think that's great, even though I don't really pay attention anymore. And it's kind of, I don't want to say we're not welcome. It's just like it's too much and I can't keep up and I'm not that interested. I don't feel like I will ever say that about Disney doing any series they want about Star Wars. If you want to oversaturate this, for us nerds, go right ahead.
Well, and I think one thing they're doing that will prevent oversaturation is a lot of these things are event series. Like, so Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett is probably 1 season, 6 episodes, just like Obi-Wan Kenobi is 1 season,
like a miniseries spinoff.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think Star Wars Visions is going to get multiple seasons. I think that's 1 season, highlighting Japanese anime studios.
More, you keep fading into your green screen.
Oh, sorry. I don't think Star Wars Visions is going to be more than 1 season. I think they'll have maybe 10 episodes, 10 different Japanese anime houses do 10 different Star Wars stories, and that'll be it. So, out of the ones that have multiple seasons, it might be Andor might be an event season, but I get a sneaky suspicion we get more than 1 season there. Ahsoka, we get more than 1 season. New Republic Rangers, we get more than 1 season, and Bad Batch. The rest of them, I don't know. So
I think when they do a Luke Skywalker series, I think we'll definitely get more seasons, because there's a lot that you kind of have to cover about him going to find Jedi artifacts and starting to bring Jedi back. One of the things that I noticed as I'm catching up with Rebels is when you're dealing with the Inquisitors, hunting down Jedi babies, and Ezra and Kanan step in and start rescuing. I still think there's a lot of that, and I still think you have to kind of set up what he was doing, and also try to explain, well, when his tempo fell and he went into exile and blah blah blah, what happened to everybody? Did everybody die? Are all these characters gone? Or there's still more out there? And then, kind of leading into Rey picking up the mantle. See, here's the thing that I would say. I don't really want another Star Wars movie with Rey, but if you did a limited series or brought her back for something like that, I'm like, that's fine. Because not everybody's going.
That'd be hard to do, because and just because the production of those 3 movies really pissed off the 3 main characters.
And I understand that. And
they've all talked about how they're.
I understand that, but I think that's the production of dealing with Kathleen Kennedy, and all that. I think you're talking about a whole different side of Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni
True.
and stuff. And here's the other side. Are you really going to complain that much as an actor stage? Really, when you've already said that you didn't really get any work after Star Wars, and you can't seem to find, projects. You've done stuff here and there, but not as much as you think you would have gotten for having launched your career. So it's kind of like, you going to turn down a paycheck or just be so upset? I'm only suggesting that I think that's a good way to do it, where you don't have to do a big movie anymore, but you can explore what she does to kind of pick up the mantle of the Jedi Order.
I'd like to talk about the Luke series for a second, because I have an idea for that. Because
I do too.
Here's the thing. They're not going to be able to deep fake Mark Hamill for an entire series. So if they don't get Sebastian Stan, because by the way, his plate's kind of full. He's a pretty in-demand guy. So if they don't get Sebastian Stan, I would like it to be a animated series in the vein of Clone Wars, Rebels, and Bad Batch, because then you could have Mark Hamill voice himself.
Right.
And I think, and that allows, I think animation, people scoff at animation, but I mean, Clone Wars and Rebels are great, and I'm super stoked for Bad Batch. But, and by the way, because of the aging problem with clones, how about Lou Diamond Phillips for Hunter? Just saying. Dave Bautista for Wrecker. Anyway, but I think animation gives you a freedom of storytelling, because there are things you can do in animation that you just can't do even today in live action. So I would not be upset if Luke Skywalker Jedi Academy was an animated show.
Yes. That's what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say. Don't even call it Luke Skywalker. Just call it Jedi
Academy. Yeah.
You know what? And that's fine. I mean, I think Mark Hamill would easily come back just to do the voice.
He would, because he's been a voiceover artist at his heart for the last 30 years. So I think he would. Are you kidding me? And you give him some measure of creative control working with Filoni and Favreau. My God, he would jump on that like a fat kid on cake.
Yep.
My favorite thing about Mark Hamill really is how he just pops up in the weirdest places. Like, he did an episode of A Long Lost Vampire in What We Do in the Shadows. And I kept like, that guy seems so familiar, but the makeup was done so well that until I saw the credits, I was like, holy shit, that wasn't.
I was freaking. I was like, oh my God, that's Mark. Favorite.
If you're not a Greg Davies fan, who started as a teacher, became a comedian, and does TV shows, and you should definitely go check out his stuff on Netflix, Cuckoo and Man Down. Man Down, one of the seasons, the diner they always go to, there's this really funny English actress who is just always down and sad and yelling at them and stuff like that. Well, back in 2016, about that time that, they were all in England filming The Last Jedi, Mark Hamill did a little cameo as her husband / the cook. And I think it was like a couple of episodes. He just popped up out of nowhere. And they make reference to his character the next season, that he runs off because he got a part in Star Wars.
A small walk-on role.
So it's just like, Mark Hamill's that guy that just pops up everywhere. He's like the modern day Lon Chaney with a man with 1,000 faces / voices. And I love that about him. You'll always be known as Luke Skywalker. They can bring you back to this universe. You can complain a little bit about how they treated your character, but, they'll always at least have some fan service. But you'll go off and do everything else, So, all right, so we're not completely talking about this. I want to get back to the final season of The Mandalorian and ask this question. Besides the season finale, obviously that's probably our favorite with what they did. Other than that, do you have a favorite episode? And I'm going to start with you, Brendan.
Oh, Tython. Our first, think about this. First actual Dark Troopers in action. Okay, and I played Star Wars Dark Forces till I burnt out the computer discs. Let's see. Boba Fett showing up with Fennec Shan, so we get not only the return of Boba Fett, proper return of Boba Fett, and we get to see him go absolutely ape shit on stormtroopers with a gaffy stick, which almost made me jump out of my seat as much as freaking Luke. Um, then you've got the return of Fennec Shan, and I'm a huge Ming-Na Wen fan, which I think is well established by this point. And then Grogu makes the call, and then you have Tython itself. And for those who don't know, I've been an avid player of Star Wars: The Old Republic since the day it launched, and I still play. As a matter of fact, you can see me on Twitch drinking craft beer and playing it a couple of times a week. And right now I'm playing the Bounty Hunter because I'm trying to get all 8 original class stories done. But Tython is the starting planet for the Jedi Knight and the Jedi Counselor. And so I have run around Tython many, many times. And so the fact that they actually made Tython canon and brought it into the Mandalorian, and we got to see Tython, even though it was only a little bit, I hope we go back and you can actually see the temples that were there. To me, that whole episode was just, it was one thing after another. Was that's cool, that's awesome, that's cool, that's awesome. So that was my favorite episode, other than the finale.
Chad, how about you?
Don't even have to think about this. My girl right here, Ahsoka.
Yeah,
been waiting on that for years, and
that would be number 2 for me.
When I heard Rosario was cast, and I could just see it in my mind's eye of they could not have picked a better actress to play Ahsoka. I mean, she embodied her nobility, her fragility, her strength, the cracks in her psyche after having to deal with what she dealt with watching her master fall from grace the way he did.
And I think it's the quiet, subtle strength that she started to embody in Rebels.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful to see that translated so well. As much people freaked out when they saw Katie Sackhoff reprising Bo-Katan, and I know people were screaming, "It needs to be Ashley Eckstein. It needs to be." Calm down. This woman nailed that character so beautifully that it gave me goosebumps the second she just that moment where she turns on those sabers and it lights up her face behind those 2 assassin droids. I marked out of my head. I completely lost my shit. That it was just so sublime watching that happen.
It's actually my favorite episode too, and I agree with you. Here's the one thing, and I'm not taking away from Ashley Eckstein. I mean, obviously, and I love how Rosario Dawson paid tribute to her for voicing the character. I mean, mad respect there.
Yeah.
I don't know the physicality of Ashley Eckstein. We've never seen her do anything to the point of we've seen this with Rosario Dawson, and I think there's a physicality that goes along with doing this character that you have to bring to it. And I think that's what Rosario Dawson really did in making the live action version of Ahsoka.
And let's be honest, there's going to be plenty of Star Wars animated projects going forward. They've had great success with everything they've done so far. Ashley Eckstein is going to get more work in the Star Wars universe. Dave Filoni is going to take care of his girl.
Yeah.
Well, they bring people back left and right. So it's not... you can do a live action version and it's going to be fine. So it's not you're right. It's not that big of a deal. I
just thought of something because you're talking about bringing people back. Okay, go ahead.
Hold on.
Go.
I think one of the great things about the episode too is you talk about subtlety. Okay. It's her humility more than anything else. It's the fact that you see her tap and talk to Grogu, and we know who the name and stuff, but it's her showing that remorse and her fear that she cannot do this. And I think you finally get to see this character kind of deal with the fact that still trying to find Ezra, obviously trying to hunt down Grand Admiral Thrawn, and it's like, my master, I survived the Clone Wars and everything, all this shit's happened, and I know that I'm not strong enough to train this child. I'm not the right person. I am good at what I do. And I think Rosario Dawson kind of captured that better than anyone. But I also think it really sets up, again, the season finale of go to Tython, let him communicate, a Jedi will find him. And she knows full well that there is a better Jedi out there that can train Grogu. And I think that's kind of a little foreshadowing, if people don't really notice it, of she knows of Luke. And I think we're at a point where it's maybe they have met or know of each other, whatever. And she is seeing, at least in my mind, I see all the potential of what Anakin was, my master.
I actually hope they haven't met, because I want to see that reaction when she realizes that Luke is Anakin's son and that Anakin was redeemed, and that, you know, all this good did eventually come of it. I think we really need to see that.
I do agree with that. I'm saying that getting to her humility and why she can't, whether they've met or not, she knows of him. Okay. And you're right. That's going to be a great emotional moment if you have that. And we should definitely see it. But
because I think she was hoping, she sent them to Tython hoping that Ezra would be the one to return the call. But I don't.
And you're right. And that would have been a great way too. But I think there's, beyond the emotion that we have with the Typhon episode in the season finale, there's something about Ahsoka that we've talked about before, where you have to have that, and it kind of encompasses all this emotion where she, what's the word? I don't know, fully realized Jedi, but she knows her limitations, or she fully knows what her role is, and you know.
She's not up to par. She's not up to the level that this kid needs to bring out his full potential, because her full potential was never really realized.
Right. I disagree with that, Chad. I think it's more of the fact that it's not her talent level or training level as a Jedi, because I think, much like if she spoke to Yoda before Yoda died, much like what happened with Kanan Jarrus, where, you know, he was knighted. I think Yoda would have, you know, long since knighted her too if she wanted it. I think it's more about the fact of the emotional scars of her with the Order, and how she left the Order, and how the Order treated her, and then what happened with her master. It's about her own. You know, we don't think of it this way because they're heroic characters, but it's about her own post-traumatic stress. I don't think she thought she was the right person to train Grogu because of all of those things.
Yeah, well, that plays a bigger part of it. Yes,
right. That's very true. But it's the end of that episode where she, defeats the villain, and just that one thing. You tell me where Grand Admiral Thrawn is, because that's what her mission. She is after, for her, what that ultimate villain is, and it's almost
going to be so good when it's on TV. Oh, it's
yes.
I look at it as a passing of torch of 2 points in Star Wars, where it's her looking for her, epilogue of what happened with Rebels, but also kind of the passing of the torch that here we are with the New Republic. There are Jedi out there, and here I'm help shepherding, this child to where it needs to go, knowing of its past.
Yeah.
So, and I think you'll get that. So, like I said, it's just there beyond the season finale. There's a little bit more emotional, their emotion with her character than anything else. And she was badass with the lightsaber duel. Also, got to give a shout out to, I like Michael Bihn's little cameo in there, and how they kind of had like an old fashioned Western standoff.
Yeah, John. He got to play Johnny Ringo again.
Same result. Mando.
Yeah. Same result. When Mando shot him, I immediately said, "Yo, no Daisy." You're no Daisy at all.
You're no Daisy at all.
Poor soul. He was just too high strung. Anyway, so the character I really want to see come back, and there's a couple of different places he could. Now, in Bad Batch, you could have him come back with the original voice actor. In Lando and Andor, he could come back too. And the character I really want to see back is Hondo Ohnaka.
Yeah.
My favorite pirate. Because so obviously Jim Cummings, who's also the voice of Winnie the Pooh, if people don't realize, but if he is like 60, 70 years old, and he is a big fat guy like me. So yeah, he's not playing Hondo in live action, but you could easily have him do it in the Bad Batch and you keep the voice. But the actor I think they should have play Hondo Ohnaka, who is young, and fit and could, with the prosthetics, easily play Hondo. But B is also very adept at doing voices himself and has voiced characters in Star Wars, and some of the biggest ones like Darth Maul and Emperor Palpatine,
Right.
is Sam Witwer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
So the whole thing about going back and watching season 2 is it's kind of amazing as you binge watch it again, that you really feel like you're getting like this 3 or 4 hour movie, or it's like watching the extended version of one of the Lord of the Rings movies, but you get these little mini chapters introducing all of these characters that are going to come together. And I think that's the brilliance of the season finale more than anything else, is we're reintroducing characters, okay, but here's why we have to do it. And another thing that I've said that I've always wanted is I wanted a 7 Samurai type of story, okay, within the Star Wars universe. And I've always wanted it with Obi-Wan, where he has to leave Tatooine in exile and go help them do something, and we just get great lightsaber duels. I feel like we kind of captured that in our own way with these characters. That helped in the season finale, and the 7th showing up was the Jedi. And if I never get what I truly wanted, I feel like you kind of satisfied that by bringing all of these people together. And you talk about music, about just the perfect use of music. We mentioned it earlier. I could listen to the score of the final episode over and over without ever having watched it and feel the same emotion. And so again, you don't really get anything more perfect.
I'm probably going to find it on the internet so I can play it while I'm playing Star Wars: The Old Republic. Yeah. Just turn the SWTOR music down and crank that.
All right, now we're going to wrap this up. Obviously, we've told you it's pretty much a perfect 10. We're not going to debate the season finale, and we're pretty much right there with the entire season. And for fans that are like kind of on the fence and, should I start watching it? And I read some comment, I watched the first few episodes of season 1 and I couldn't get into it. Like, dude, okay, you're not a Star Wars fan to begin with, or you don't appreciate good film.
That's what I hit him with. Are you a Western fan? Did you like Lone Wolf and Cub?
Yeah, and I had to explain to my dad, who started this, like, I don't really get it. I'm like, it's the big bad and the ugly, but with a Mandalorian. And like, I don't know what a Mandalorian is. It looks like Boba Fett. He's a Mandalorian.
Yeah. Just got it in one, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you remember all the Star Wars books you bought me, starting in 92, 93 with, the Admiral Heir to the Empire series, and I kept reading. I know you didn't read any of those, but they're tapping into what they have explained in this universe before. But again, what they did with this entire season, even if they had a filler episode that wasn't really good, was fantastic. There was one more thing I wanted to mention, and I think it is that filler episode when he's being chased. The rebel pilot, the Asian rebel pilot. What is his name? Okay. He played Captain Carson Teva.
Yeah.
And the actor is Paul's son, Huang Lee. He is also a member of one of the Canadian branches of the 501st. They gave him a big shout out because he got to do a cameo. He's also been an actor for well over 30 years. And I want to give a shout out to a great little series that he does. It's on Canadian TV, but it ends up on Netflix, called Kim's Convenience Store. And he is a Korean that immigrated with his wife and his family, and they run a convenience store in Toronto. There's a lot of little kind of Asian stereotypes that are funny and stuff. It's a great little comedy about meddling parents trying to run a business with their Asian children. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out, because if you liked just this one little bit of him being an X-wing pilot and a captain, you will love this series. He is hilarious. Okay. Final question. Is there anything that you were actually disappointed by the entire season? Anything that you can nitpick on? We'll at least give an opportunity to do that real quick. And I judge by silence, no.
I will say, having seen the episode where they get the Gideon's location. They steal Gideon's location. I want to see more Bill Burr.
Yeah.
I think, one episode wasn't enough after that, because I mean, he was kind of one note in the first season, but that's all he had the opportunity to do. But he really showed some serious acting chops, demonstrating Burr's post-traumatic stress without actually saying anything, just the uncomfortableness and how he was shifting in his seat and the wincing of the way he was reacting to Valen Hess's, over the just ridiculous bullshit. And he knew right there, he was like, okay, the New Republic might be the same to people on the ground, but at least they're better than the Empire, and that they would never do this. And so I really hope that we see him going forward, because having him be officially dead sets him up perfectly to be a Black Ops guy for Cara Dune in the Republic Rangers. So I really hope we get to see him 2 or 3 times.
There is one thing that we do have to mention in regards to the key, or maybe this is something I missed, but when they did the scan on the Mandalorian and he was allowed in to get the location, is that setting up, was there something that I missed about that, or are they setting up some secret about, was he really with the Empire? Because he was in the system.
Because the way Mayfield explained it is, it wasn't scanning for Imperial IDs, it was scanning Republic databases to see if you were attached to the Republic.
Oh, okay.
So so that's the way they explain that away. And I mean, and to a certain extent, that almost fits the what's the word I'm looking for? Arrogance of the Empire. Like, they don't need to scan their own people because they've got the other people's databases. So
And Tamura had the best line in connection with that. Let's just say they
recognize my face. Yeah.
Well, when I first saw it, I kind of thought, is this like a Shepherd book moment where he has a key card to, government, and they don't really know his identity, or really, and
no, because otherwise they wouldn't need Mayfeld, because Mayfeld knew all the Imperial clearances and customs.
Okay.
So
I just wanted to make sure that wasn't something that I missed, because I thought that'd be kind of like, who is this guy really? But anyway. All right. But anyway, like I said, is there anything that you can nitpick? I'm personally not going to do it, because I loved everything about it.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing was that second episode that I was kind of on, but I was just on it. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't Boba Fett mauling stormtroopers or Luke Skywalker mauling Death Troopers. So, there's a sliding curve there. I'm not going to kill it so badly now because of the payoff at the end.
It wasn't a bad episode. It was just the weakest episode of a bunch of good ones. Flawless season. Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's fair enough.
You know what? I do have one complaint. The only thing I would complain of is the inconsistency of the episode lengths. How you had one that was an hour long, and then you would have one that would be like 32 minutes. I'm like, what the hell are y'all doing?
Yeah. Can we can we set it at a set length? That'd be nice.
Yeah. Let's have a set length. Yeah.
Right. One thing I will say, it's not nitpicking really the season. It's just nitpicking if this doesn't happen. Timothy Olyphant was great in the first episode.
Got to bring him back.
I'm sorry?
I say you got to bring him back.
You got to. Yeah, you have to.
And
Deadwood in my Star Wars.
And maybe New Republic Rangers starts off, and Captain Teva tasks Cara Dune with creating a team, and she recruits Mayfield and Cobb Vanth.
Yeah, which
that would be awesome.
Right, which is perfectly fine too. But he was great. I need a little Raylan Givens in the Star Wars universe. I'm just saying.
We always need a little Raylan Givens.
It's a match made in heaven. And if you want to give him some cool helmet or hat or whatever, that's actually, it really would just be like the ultimate nerdgasm. Is if he gets set up and shows up regularly, and then there's that episode where they're tracking a bad guy and it's Walter Goggins.
That would be funny. Or better yet, bring Walton Goggins in to play Cad Bane.
I was hoping somebody was going to say that.
That would be a good casting too. All right. Well, this is basically our review of season 2 of The Mandalorian. Like as I said before, it's damn perfect. there isn't anything that we can really complain about. I mean, we could nitpick, but we're not going to. And if you haven't watched it yet, now that
yourself
you're
a solid.
watching this, go start.
Our
Yeah,
only
it's-
real complaint is we have to wait 12 more months to see season 3.
My God. But then again, I'm like, what are you going to do to give me in return, in regards to a big payoff that you did with this? I mean, it's like, but anyway, just give me a Luke Skywalker series.
I trust them. I trust Filoni and Favreau to do us right because they haven't done us wrong yet.